Welcome to Processing Purpose, a business and lifestyle podcast committed to having honest conversations about the stuff in our lives that is often suppressed, ignored, or overlooked. We are two brothers from very different backgrounds, but with one common goal. From entrepreneurship to relationships, from hobbies to house projects, nothing is off limits as we process becoming the best version of ourselves in business and life.
We're back. I had to do it just because last time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back.
Just because last time we finally realized that was our custom intro.
It was. It's trademarked.
Yeah. We're back. That's
back.
our trademark slogan. So maybe we'll get some t-shirts made.
I know we're live. Move your microphone just a touch away from your face there.
Ba-da-boo.
There. That's
A
good.
little bit better?
That's good. Yeah. You were peaking the levels. And
That way I'm not
I don't want all of a
yelling?
sudden when people are listening in their car and all of a sudden it's like,
I mean, we're pretty loud on our own, so I don't know.
We've talked about that. We are loud talkers.
Yeah, we joke off in coffee shops. Everybody gets to hear about what's going on in our life because we can't help it.
Now, if we have to talk about anything secret, we better be like in
We
a
don't
bunker.
go to coffee shops.
In a bunker.
No, in the raft, on a river, fishing. That's it.
Yeah.
It's cool. Well, stoked to be here and stoked to catch up and see how life's going. Obviously, we've been doing a lot of life together over this summer. You know, different things going on. Fun little wedding reception this weekend. But
Let's pause there for a
what's
second.
up in your world?
Let's pause there because you had an opportunity this weekend to kind of take some of those first steps that we've talked about when you're fleshing out a new idea, when you're exploring, is this something I want to do? Am I having fun with this? Is this, you know? So just real quickly, let's just check in on that before we hit the topic for today.
So in fact, the first thing Luke asked me when I walked in here today was, so tell me how it went, right? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it?
And what'd you do?
You not enjoy it? Oh, sorry. So I cooked 144 sandwiches for a wedding reception on Saturday.
Smoked the meat, the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole process, right? And it's a lot of work, right? For anybody that is out there and loves barbecue, you totally understand that picking out the brisket, getting it back to your house, and trimming it up the way you want to, seasoning it, storing it, all those things. So I had 4 full packer briskets on my new smoker, which is a 94-gallon mill scale offset, which is now my favorite toy in the world. I know a lot of people are intimidated by the big boys just feeding the fire instead of running the electric pellet grills, which both are great for different reasons. But if you're willing to put in the time and effort, the big boy just puts out a product that is undeniably better, in my opinion. So I put all 4 briskets on the big boy, and then I did all the pork butts on the Traeger, or the Traegers, 2 Traegers. And it was an all-day venture. I mean, it was it was a full 9 to 10 hour cook, and then I did about a 2 to 3 hour rest, hot held all the meat in coolers, and then brought it down to the venue and started slicing, dicing, chopped everything up for sandwiches, but had coleslaw, fried onions, fried pickles, all that good stuff to go on top. Awesome barbecue sauce to add. It turned out great, and we got a lot of great feedback. So Luke asked how'd it go? What'd you think about it? And I looked at him, and it's all I want to do. I mean, really, it's just, I'm in my element, In fact, when I showed up to the venue, the bride's mom asked me, she goes, "Are you nervous about this?" And I said, "Absolutely not. This is my element. This is where I shine, This is my secret sauce where I'm in performance mode like this and enjoying what I'm doing. I love it. So no nerves at all. I just, nothing like that whatsoever. There's a lot of people that ask me if I was nervous ahead of time, Are you nervous about getting it right and all that? And I'm like, I mean, this is living, for me and the way I'm wired. This is living. This is what lights me up and gives me the juice. It just does. I know it can derail some people in terms of like, oh my gosh, what could go wrong? What could happen? But we've said it on this podcast before. I'll say it again. Don't be scared of what could go wrong. Get excited about what could go right. And it went right. It was awesome. It was super fun. I was really proud of what turned out and how.
And that doesn't mean it was perfect, though.
No. Everything can be better.
I'm sure you learned a ton. And
oh my gosh, I learned a ton. In fact, I shared with Luke that I sourced some free cherry wood, which is amazing. It was actually what a gift it was. But when I started chopping it all up, it had issues. It had some infestation stuff. I had to go through a ton of wood to get the right pieces so that I'm not smoking, stuff that I don't want to be smoking.
Smoking bugs.
Yeah, exactly. So getting all that fleshed out and all that good stuff, it pulled it off. But really looking forward to the next round because of all those learnings the first time. And I told you that, right? At the end of the at the end of the night, my favorite part of the day, I was exhausted, but my favorite part of the day, was watching people enjoy, and getting that feedback was really fun. But really for me, it was the learning. I just got so much education in such a short amount of time. And when you start, it was my first cook on that smoker, which probably was a little ballsy if I'm being honest, but I just thought, man, let's just give it a shot anyway. So
that was pretty gutsy.
It was pretty gutsy.
Cook for 150 people on a smoker you've never used, bro. That, for those of you listening, I don't recommend that type of like mitigate your risk.
Yeah, confidence is okay.
Put the odds in your favor, not fly by the seat of your pants.
No, but Luke's been around me enough to know that's just kind of how I do it. And so, but he's not wrong. Being prepared and doing things at a time is helpful. But the truth is baptism by fire, there's something really special about it, right? Getting thrown to the wolves and coming out the other end, you survived it, you succeeded through it, and you're like, what else can I take on, right? You start to look for other opportunities, and I think unless you step into a hard situation, I just saw a quote recently. Miracles are born through hard things, something of that nature, and I agree with that, And so we'll see what comes of it now. But thank you for asking. I enjoyed it. I can't wait to do it again. I want to do more of it. It's me.
If you had one, let's just call it procedural. So it's not necessarily that has to do with the specific task of smoking meat and making sandwiches, but like from just a standpoint of, getting out there and doing something for the first time. Like, did you have one big takeaway that if someone else was wanting to go out there and do something their first time, and like, do you have one big takeaway that you were like, you know what, people should know this?
I don't know if there was like one big takeaway. I'd say there was like 20 small takeaways.
Okay.
More than anything. But to your point from before, or at least my point from, going through all the cherry wood and chopping it as I go, the truth is I didn't have time to go through all of it ahead of time. I just had way too many things to pack in and do before that anyway, just preparing everything else. But I'd say just be prepared, right? Like as regardless of your experiences, the more you can prepare your site, the way you plan things out, right? Get all your portions intact, right? The night before. And that's part of why it took me so long the night before to prepare everything, is I also had to make coleslaw for 144 people, which takes, about 5 times longer than it typically does. So doing all those things as much as you can ahead of time. The night before, I think one of the best things I learned I follow a guy named Matt Pittman on Meat Church YouTube channel. I'm totally giving him a plug, but dang it, you're just going to learn so much from this guy. And everything is really all about time and temp anyways. So, I think I think as long as you just get as much as you possibly can done ahead of time. Like, for example, he says if you can season the night before, trim season the night before, wrap it back up, get it in the fridge, and just pull it out of the fridge, get it to ambient temperature, and then get it on the grill. You've just created so much less work because you have more to do with managing the fire and all that. But we talked about that before, not naming names, but anytime I see someone frantically cook, all I think is you need more preparation.
Yeah.
You need to get all your stuff lined up so you're grabbing and going. If you watch some of the best cooks, that's what they do. You don't see them running around the kitchen trying to find stuff.
They set up their station.
Yes. And that's true for anyone that's great at their craft, right? Construction workers, anything else. They get their station set. They don't frantically look for anything. They know where all of their stuff is. Mise en place, right? Yeah. Everything has its place.
Yeah. Yeah, I was doing some coaching last week with one of my clients, and we were they're doing a move. They're moving buildings, and we were talking about preparation in anticipation for this move. And for this particular example, it was, you need to be thinking through your best case scenarios and your worst case scenarios. And neither are likely to be the outcome.
Yeah.
But those are your guardrails. And if at least you've thought about what the worst case scenario is and how you're going to respond to that, then if the needle starts trending in that direction, you're fine.
Yeah.
Because you've already got your plan in place of like what's going to happen if this goes that way. And if it comes out on the other side of the scale, the other side of the bell curve, you're gravy. You're crushing then.
Right.
And so preparation, especially when you're doing some things for the first time, can't be overstated.
And in terms of a big undertaking too, delegating as much as you can outside of what your niche job is to do, right? So for example, people started asking me, where are all the sides going to be? I'm not making sides.
Yeah.
You're making sides. I'm
Yeah.
making sandwiches.
Yeah.
Right. I don't have time to be putting together 4 or 5 different sides. It's just not going to happen. So for me, I knew that that was my boundary, and I just had to set it. And I'd say, know what your boundaries are, know what your specialties are, delegate the rest.
It's good. That's
yeah.
really,
That's probably
really
a general
good.
statement.
That's
Yeah.
write that one down.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I need to remember that. But it's true. It makes your life so much easier. And guess what? There's tons of people that are around you that are willing to step up. Like, I've never been in a situation like, I need help. Can I delegate this, this, and this? I've never had once where people are like, oh, I don't want to do it.
No,
Everyone's
I'm on
like,
the
yes,
dance
yes, yes,
floor.
yes, yes. It's like,
Yeah.
sweet. Especially at that kind of event, everyone wants everyone to have a great time.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to do everything they can to make that happen.
Yeah. And I can vouch. I was attending the wedding reception, so I can vouch for all this. It was delicious food, and everybody had smiles everywhere.
Yeah,
It was
awesome.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
So
and thanks for your help setting stuff up too. That was
course.
really helpful from
course.
everybody. So what's
Well-
going on in your world, dude? Let's unpack some stuff. You've been going through a lot. It's
Yeah,
been a big
there's-
summer, fun, but also a lot of serious things to pay attention
Yeah,
to.
there's some things percolating that we haven't really dug into, and I haven't really known how to broach the topic just yet. And we're still going to talk a little bit around it. It's not going to be super direct, but I want to talk about as you build something. Okay, this is going to be whether you go on to build a barbecue restaurant. This is going to be for someone that wants to create a widget and sell it online. Building something to sell. Meaning, if we start with the end in mind and we build something, we're going to create something, the end result, the end goal is that we sell it to somebody else. Now, that's the framework, but it's not necessarily, you're not obligated to sell.
Right.
If you build it to sell, you're not taking something away from what you're creating if you build something to sell.
Right. Do you think there's an emotional detachment possibly from like, I'm going to keep this thing here, but maybe that's healthy.
I
Maybe
think
that's
there
healthy.
should be an emotional detachment.
Sure.
I think that it may facilitate that a little bit.
That's actually really healthy. That's really healthy to keep yourself emotionally arm's length from your business.
Business, how do I say this? People get too emotional about their business. Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
It's hard not to take, when you're someone that takes things personally, it's hard not to let that seep into business, but it should not.
Yeah, it needs to be a very unemotional experience. Now, the dichotomy of that is that business absolutely destroys your emotions. You're up, you're down, you're winning,
Right.
you're losing. It's over, I'm dead, I'm alive, I'm making it. It's just this roller coaster of emotion.
And you have a lot of employees who have a lot of that emotion that
Yep.
you have to manage. So you're managing emotion.
Absolutely. But if in the midst of the emotion that the business causes, you're also emotional about the success and or failure of that business, you're doubling up. Because the swings now affect almost an identity level of like,
Right.
but I really want this to succeed. Well, you can want it to succeed. But we also have to look at it through a logic lens.
Right.
And yeah, I think that, and that's probably a whole nother conversation that we could go down of emotion versus logic as it relates to business. But yeah, I think that building something to sell helps you kind of step out of it and be more objective about what it is that you're creating.
Yeah.
Because the lens now is, would somebody else want this? Or what do I need to do to this business so somebody else wants this?
Right. Or just overall value. Where's the value? How do I, yeah.
Yeah. And keep in mind with this, when I say built to sell, and there's a great book out there. It's actually called Built to Sell. So none of this is an original thought, but all I'm really talking about is a business that can operate without you.
Sure. So then now you're thinking through processes, systems a whole lot more clearly because you're not thinking, what do I need to do for the business? You're thinking, what does the business need?
Yeah, it's the proverbial working in it versus on it.
Right.
Right? You've heard people say, don't work in the business, work on the business.
Yeah.
And when you're working in it, the business requires you. When you're working on it, well, anybody can work on it. And so that is probably the core tenet of building something to sell, is working yourself out of a job. Creating a business around you that will operate without you. And the beautiful thing about that, whether you sell it or not, is that you've created an entity and hopefully a cash flow stream that comes in while you're traveling the world or investing your energy in whatever it is you're wanting to invest your energy in.
Which is the gift, right?
And then, absolutely. And then if you're wanting to give time and more energy to that business, you can. But it's never something that, well, this isn't going to work if I don't do it.
Right.
Now, the beginning, probably the first several years, yep, you're going to be in it and on it and all around it.
And unless you sell it, right, even if you replace yourself, build a 7-level business, and you replace yourself with a new CEO, there may be an instance where you have to step back in as a CEO, right? Mm-hmm. If you still own that business. Mm-hmm. So there's the caveat to not selling it if you build it. But yeah, you're ultimately trying to replace yourself.
Yeah.
Which is, it's funny because in one way people go, well, that seems like you're taking advantage of people. You're manipulating people. And I think not in a free market capitalist society. That's literally the design.
Yeah.
And those of us that are not taking advantage of that opportunity, kind of missing the point.
Yeah.
In some ways, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, you're providing. Yeah, for me, that's never entered into the equation, like taking advantage of people by removing myself. Like, I'm the one that took the risk. I'm the one that had the idea. I'm the one that created it. I need people around me to help execute on those things. But if it hadn't have been for me, they wouldn't have gone and executed on those things by themselves and created this. So
correct.
I'm providing an environment where people can find themselves, discover new skills, add to their resume, take care of their families. So I don't see how that's taking advantage of anybody. And if I'm like, hey, I'll pay you $80,000 to help me with this a year. Oh, how dare I take advantage of them by paying them to work.
Sure. And again, the pay for work is for the job, not the person.
Yes.
Typically, depending on your experience level. Yeah, and the truth is, someone told me a while ago, it might have been you actually. They said, remember, when an employee's hired, the employer solves their problem before the employee solves any of the employer's problem.
Oh, I didn't say that, but that's a good one.
Meaning,
I should have said that.
Meaning income.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
They're coming to you because they have a need.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in my opinion, that's a very clear frame of what building a business actually looks like. Is you're really helping solve not only some of the world's problems, depending on what you're doing, but now you're solving a host of your employees' problems by providing them with real income, real opportunity that they wouldn't find elsewhere.
So when I ask you what it looks like to remove yourself from the business and have it run without you, what comes to mind?
At this point, it can. And we're only a small little business, but I don't want to say it can. I think at some point, frustrations would probably start to bottle up and things like that, just because the world needs a director. I know there's some people that argue, leadership, a bunch of people telling other people what to do. But listen, without the directors and people that have clear understanding of how things work and where things need to go and pushing the ball in the right direction, it can get messy really quickly. But right now, as of now, I could be out of the office or in the office, and there really wouldn't be any major impact to the business. Unless it was a long-term deal that I just wasn't around.
And what has allowed you to do that?
Amazing people. Yeah. Okay. So I have producers that are producing. I have operations manager that literally runs the back-end show. She does not need any help. In fact, I need to give her more to do. But she's like, should I have more to do? But she's just absolutely incredible. So talent is key. And you have a really talented employee as well.
Yep.
That's helping you tremendously. So talent is absolutely number one. And I'd say I've had to go through some pretty untalented people to find talent. So don't be dismayed. Don't be discouraged if you haven't found that person yet, but if you have people in your life that are not the right fit, it just doesn't feel quite right. It's business. Try not to make it personal. Even if it's a small business, the business needs what the business needs. You're getting in the way of that. And so the right people need to be there for you. And when they are, everything changes.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, look what can happen now. But I'm doing my best to effort toward consistency, and making sure that regardless of not having to be in the office every day, that I am staying consistent. And there is some element of leadership in our business. So what about you?
Yeah, I think for me, it falls on systems and processes. When I think about a business that can run without me, it has to be, I'm not sure there's such a thing as airtight. I'm sure there's always room for improvement, but nearly airtight systems and processes around every facet of the business. So that, yes, talent improves the efficiency, maybe even the outcomes, but you can even put people with less talent in positions and still be effective. It may not be efficient, but it could still be effective. And that's really one of the cruxes. There's a few, but that's really one of the cruxes of making sure that you're not obligated to be a part of it. Is, can anybody step in and do it?
When are you aware that a system is needed? Is it when problems are arising? Is it when you go, something's missing here? We need something in place to make sure this goes the right way. Or do you just have the intuition at this point, being in business so long, knowing like, I know exactly where systems need to go even before I get started?
Everything should be a system.
Okay.
So it's not so much like, a system's needed here, a process is needed here. From the beginning, you create the system and the process. Now that is an evolution, and rarely is it ever going to stay like that system and process. That will always be upgraded, always be improving. You're forever going to be modifying and redocumenting and making sure that everything's working efficiently and as effectively as possible. But from how often you check email, or email gets checked, whether that's a general email inbox, to the responses that take place there, to what the voice message should look like if you call a client and they don't answer, it should all be documented and be a system and a process so that anybody can step in and go, well, I may not be able to do it super efficient. It's going to take me longer, but I can do it.
Right.
Anybody can do it. And it allows you to have, when the inevitable happens, you have an employee get sick, you have an employee get pregnant, you have an employee need to leave the office for whatever the reason. It's not this scramble. It's, no, we've well documented this person will step in, they'll do the job, it'll be just fine, and you can move forward and everything continues to move. It doesn't mean that it's going to move as efficiently, but it continues to move and continues to be productive in the wake of loss.
Right. We have incredible systems within our business now because of Steph. She goes away though. Systems are there, but navigating them are going to be not challenging, but nevertheless, my question to you is, let's say I'm on a new venture and I'm not a systems guy, right? I'm a fly by the seat of my pants, performance guy, just get out there and do your thing. But taking time, sitting down and mapping it out, it feels laborious to me. My mind feels very like, this just feels like a dread. So my question for someone like myself that might not want or might not have the skill set like yourself to sit down and really map that stuff out and get excited about it. It sounds like you get excited about those things. Go, I love seeing the map. I love seeing how things come together and can play together. What are your thoughts about, or are there systems consultants out there? Are there professionals I can call in to say, hey, I need help developing systems within my business? Is that something?
Yeah, there are. You can definitely hire that out.
Okay.
But the truth of it, and I'm sure there's exceptions, it sucks. I don't enjoy creating systems.
And is every system model-ish, or is it very curated to that specific business, or are there a lot of generalities around systems?
There's some generalities, like you could have like hiring best practices or onboarding best practices, things like that, where there's going to be a little bit more generalities. But for the most part, each business is unique.
Yeah.
And what makes Alpine Group work, there's going to be some secret sauce in there, whether that's the tone in which you deal with your clients, the speed in which you respond, like there's going to be some secret sauce, and that's the uniqueness of it. But the creating of the system and the processes, it is laborious.
Okay.
And that's
good to hear that from you, especially.
It's not glamorous.
Yeah.
And it's work. And it can feel daunting and overwhelming.
It's the doing dishes part of the...
Yeah. I want to smoke the meat, not do the dishes.
Yeah.
Right? And yet the dishes need to get done.
Correct. They're very important.
And so the systems are, and I'm sure there's people that love systems and creating process structures. I know there are, in fact.
Yeah.
But I'm not one of those either. I love the result and the efficiency in which we can all operate, having them in place.
Yeah.
And so because of that, my reason why for having them is big enough that I grind through the messiness. And I'm at a point now for one of my businesses where we've started implementing real strategic systems and processes that I didn't have to create them. Yeah, I had enough people, enough staff, enough talent that I could go to them and say, we're creating this. Because we didn't do it in the beginning because there's too many things going on, but we need to. And so we're documenting everything. And the reason why, so everything moves well, so that if I need you to pinch hit somewhere, you can.
Yeah.
So that if I have to step in as the owner because my key individual steps out, chooses to go a different direction, I can step in and go, all right, I got to get up to speed. Here's the documentation. And that's really the key component. It's not just having a system, it's documenting it.
Right.
Having it in a place where everybody can access it, where it's obvious, and where it's continuing to be updated.
Do you have issues with employees not following the systems or is that what the system's for? Is to make sure that it protects you, the business, from the employee not executing well. You can go right back to, I didn't make this up. Here's where it is. You did not follow it.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the point?
I mean, it creates a very clear guardrail of like, here's how this job is executed.
Yeah.
And if you can't do this, you're not the right person for the job.
Correct.
So now there's some grace in there. Like, okay, I failed. I didn't tell you everything that was, needing to be involved, or I didn't, impress upon you how important it is to do step 1 through 10 as it's outlined. I'll take ownership of that. But after we have that conversation, if it's still not being done, next.
Yeah. Totally.
So the documentation, and for us, it's going to look a little bit different for each business. If you're a very bricks and mortar business where everybody's in-house, everybody's under the same roof, maybe that documentation is a notebook.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be glamorous. Maybe it's an employee handbook that everybody's got sitting on their desk with every job description and how to do each of those jobs clearly outlined and defined.
Sure.
If you're a remote team, that's not going to work. It needs to be online in almost a wiki type format where it's searchable and it's organized in a hierarchy, almost like a book would be, like an operating manual. That's really what it is. It's an operating manual for your business.
Sure. What about exposing all job descriptions to the entire staff, just so it's like, what I watched a deal with Peyton Manning. He said the quarterback position is the hardest position on the field, right? You have to know, you not only have to know your job, you have to know everybody else's job as well.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe that's beneficial for a workplace.
Yeah.
That everybody knows everybody's job really well.
Yeah.
So, the accountability.
Certainly have access to it.
Yeah.
Right? So that you can, that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
It's subject to change, right? I'm always learning as well.
Sure.
But as I see it now, like, I don't see the downside of that.
Oh.
Everybody pulls their own weight. Everybody knows what everybody does.
Yep.
And I remember at one point when I was bringing on 2 new employees, I brought on 2 new managers in the last, let's call it 18 months. So not a huge arc there, but for a while they were like, "And what do you do here?" Because
I own.
Yes, like I created the job for you.
I hire you.
Obviously that was a jest, but it was fair. It was like, what is your role in all this? How are you contributing? And they weren't asking from a standpoint of like, are you doing anything around here?
Right.
But like,
we need to know so we're not stepping on your toes.
Yeah, but
like, that.
like where are you? What are you doing day in, day out so that we can know how to support you as well in all of this? So it was done very innocently. But there always is that question, of what's going on. And if you're not careful, you'll respond because I'm the boss, because I'm the parent. Like you do with your kids.
Because I took all the risk. So. Yeah. Immediately you go to a defensive place. Like I've thought, there was a comment of, man, I wish I had Gavin's job, and I thought, if they knew everything I went through over the last few years, the stress, the tears, the headaches, the conversations with you, all the stress-induced issues that arise from just going through a challenging time, people just quickly forget or just are blind to it, and you're like, yes, but I don't want to sound entitled, but I've earned it.
Yeah.
I've earned it.
Yeah.
I've grinded at this for 10 years. I've earned it.
I think, obviously there's a lot of different leadership styles.
Sure.
But I think transparency as a leader of what's going on, the wins, the losses.
Yep.
I think it matters.
Yeah. You got to be careful though. Again, not letting too much emotion get into the business. Cause if you dwell on the losses too much, it kind of got into that a little bit for a season, and that can have its own effects. And so you got to be careful there too. You're not superhuman. We're all human, We're not built to last forever, but we have to, anyway.
Yeah.
Keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
So how are you just navigating change? How are you navigating newness right now?
Yeah. There's a lot shifting for me right now. A lot. And it's a bit overwhelming. Because coming back to the emotion of it, you can kind of get caught up in the winning and the losing of it. I guess I'll say it. One of my businesses, we're in the process of exiting. And it is exciting. And it is scary.
And it's interesting because all those things happen at the same time, and you're in that lane for a while. It's not like that's like a up and down. That's like this for a long time. Like
you're in suspension.
Yeah.
You're in suspension. I was talking to my head coach, and I was like, I feel like I'm climbing a mountain. I can see the top. I look down, I can see the bottom. But I'm midway up, and I can't make any progress. I'm kind of moving laterally, looking for a route.
Yeah. And the view's great, but I'm ready to get off this thing.
Yeah. You're searching like, okay, the route ahead of me, I can't navigate. I got to find a way around it. And it's an uncomfortable place. It's a limbo place that is very uncomfortable, because at the same time, I'm also running other businesses that we're not selling. Right. And so I'm trying to be the best I can for those businesses while navigating what the buyer needs from me and what I have to create and due diligence and keeping the train on the rails and making sure that the numbers are good. And it's a freaking lot.
And it's a good thing you have nothing else going on in your life besides that.
Yeah.
You got 3 young kids.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're busy. And then not on top of that, like just managing social stuff too, right? Like it's so important, especially being in business. You're on the grind all the time. Like, dude, our social world is really important. So getting all that in while you're going through all this, I'm assuming you're overwhelmed.
Yeah, it does. Sure. It does feel, and some days are easier than others, as every day is. But right now, the general sense, like the arc of my day to day, is like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
And that's an exhausting place to be. And it's not even so much, okay, here we go, because there's so much work in front of me. Because I'm really, as far as the exit goes, I'm really not doing a whole lot right now with that. It's on the buyer. He has to work through the folders and documents and gobs of information that I've provided, as far as just, here's how this is working, here's what's needed, so on and so forth. It's called due diligence.
It's necessary.
Just like you would with a house. There's a lot of stuff that you're providing, more so than a house. But similarly, for those of you that have bought a house, that's kind of how it works. You get something under contract. There's a due diligence period. They make sure everything is as it was represented, and you move forward. And so there's not a lot of work for me to do, but there's a lot of, like, in that limbo, you're almost waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
You're waiting for that email, for that call of, like, I'm concerned about this. This was a flag, right? Or what's wrong with this? And that hasn't happened. And this will be a second exit for me. I also exited Degree 33. And so and maybe we talk about it here, but that was a God exit.
Yeah.
I mean, we went from under contract to closed in 5 weeks. That doesn't exist in the business
not only
world.
that, but I remember, dude, I remember a lot of conversation around that, and then you guys put it up for sale, and then you guys had immediate interest.
Yeah.
Not only immediate interest, but escalating interest
Yeah.
of, like, whoa, my gosh, there's a lot going on here. So that became really fun really fast.
Yeah, that was a fun exit. It went really quickly. And, who doesn't want to own a surfboard brand in Southern California? Like, so it's a sexy business. In hindsight, I can see why it was so easy to exit and attractive.
It's like owning a barbecue business in Texas.
Right. It's
Samesies.
like, I want to do that, And so, but this is the second time we've been under contract. So the first contract fell through from a financing standpoint. This has been a year now in the works. And I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to move on.
Yeah.
And it's wearing.
Yep.
And I probably still have another 3 to 5 months in front of me.
Yeah.
And so that's like, and that's the hopeful. I have 3 to 5 months in front of me, because that means it's moving well and we're still moving forward.
So the due diligence period on this one's a lot longer.
Yeah, it's a lot longer. And the financing on this one's a lot different. The surfboard business was actually purchased cash.
Sure. Oh, so they had sold another business bought. Yeah, they had a bunch of cash.
They had a bunch of cash, and I don't know why they chose to go cash versus financing. I don't remember. Interest rates must not have been good at that time. I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, this one's being financed, and so not only does the buyer have to do due diligence, but the bank has to do due diligence. So there's a whole underwriting process now that's going. Again, coming back to the house, right? You've got the buyer doing their inspection and due diligence that the house is as they hoped it would be. And then you have the bank looking at all the details with appraisals and, personal finances, and making sure that that's all going to work as well. So there's two sides of it. Same thing happens in a business transaction, where, they're just making sure that the bank's lending on a good asset and that the buyer's buying a good asset.
Do you know what bank it is? Small bank.
It's a small bank that specializes in this type of transaction.
Cool. That's better. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if they have any dealings in business, but any of the large national banks are just, sorry guys, you're terrible to deal with.
Yeah.
I hate saying it, but you're a robot. You're a big machine, and it is not fun to deal with you.
Most of them don't do M&A stuff. Or if they do, they have a small little department that does very specific, types of acquisitions.
Right.
But that's not their business for the most part. Most of it's small boutique bank stuff that does most of the M&A.
Cool.
Most of the M&A world. So yeah, that's.
I'm going to ask you a quick. Well, finish your thought. Sorry, I didn't cut you off.
Keep that thought, because it is real brief. It's actually been really toiling. It's taken a toll on me.
Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's easy to get up here and say, this is going well. Check, and people do it all over podcasts and YouTube and everything else. But it's really special when someone who is as successful as you to say it's really hard right now, and I'm not having a lot of fun, and I'm stressed.
Yeah.
Because people need to hear that. People need to hear that they're not alone. People need to hear that it's okay to feel that way. That's part of this journey. There's ups, there's downs, there's middle ground, there's stuckness, there's levity, there's buoyancy, there's all of it. You just have to keep moving forward. And you know me, I get just as more emotional than most people, but the best thing I could tell myself is it's temporary, right? Regardless of the length, like this is temporary. This overwhelmed state is temporary. I will come out of this. I always do, always have, always will. So thank you for being vulnerable. The question I was going to ask is, have you ever considered entering into business, buying a business rather than building it from bootstrapping? I know you've said bootstrapping is your strength. You love building things from the ground up, but have you ever considered that, doing what this guy is doing with your business?
Yeah. Actually, as I look down the barrel of a potential exit here, it has crossed my mind. Would I want to turn some of this cash around and buy something else?
Yeah.
Because when I looked at the terms of the loan that he's taking, I'm like, he's putting hardly any cash into this deal, which is good on him.
Sure, if he can figure it out, yeah.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, interesting. You could buy cash flow for that little of an investment. So I hadn't really thought about it till I saw the term sheet from the bank that he got.
Sure.
And then I was like, that's all you're putting into it? And
just leveraging it.
Yeah, and it made me go, oh, interesting. Now, would I buy something? Only if it was super clear where my leverage points are. Meaning I know that I could step in and 10x it.
Sure.
If I can step in,
very leveraged.
if I can step in and go, yep, I can see how to take this from 1 million to 10 million. Yep, I would consider it.
What do you even like? You know this world a whole lot better than I. You've talked to and hired and deal with business brokers. You've dealt with them for the last 6-8 years, something like that. Like how do you even start? Yeah. Like do you reach out to a business broker? Do you go online and look at LoopNet? I mean, what do you do? How do you start considering buying somebody's business? I don't even know.
There's directories online, just like there is for just like an MLS.
Okay.
Where you can go and you can search businesses for sale. Most business brokerages have a directory of all their offerings.
Sure.
And so you can find it in there. Another one, but there's also like general websites out there that have businesses for sale.
And do you recommend a brokerage?
No, I'm not going to put that on blast here.
Okay. No, not recommend a specific one. Sorry. Do you recommend using one in general versus trying to navigate it? Good.
Yeah, 100%. Find and depending on the size of your transaction, will be whether or not you use a banker or use a brokerage.
Okay.
The bigger the transaction, you'll move towards investment bank, where their business is M&A, mergers and acquisitions. Mine's not a huge transaction, and so brokerage makes sense for me, where you just end up paying a percentage of the end of the deal.
So you have your own corporate attorneys and things
and
like that.
And then you have your own M&A attorneys.
Yeah.
To just vet everything and look at the APAs or however it is that you're exiting and the contractual side of things. So, but yeah, I mean, in the first one I had a broker, in this one I had a broker. And as long as this one goes through, it appears to be the right decision. So,
yeah, totally.
And I think even if they have leverage that you don't.
Sure.
They have a network that you don't.
Right.
So you want to sell the business, you're going to do it yourself. How are you going to let people know that it's for sale?
I know. Exposure really, and when you go to sell anything, exposure really matters.
And you know that. I mean, this is your business, right? Maybe not M&A, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's a salt. I stopped telling sellers that. They got turned off by that kind of comment. But I'm like, look, that's the truth, though. With marketing and advertising now, you have to be top 2. If you're not top 2 in someone's brain, you're out.
Yeah.
I tell everybody the best test is go, name me 8 candy bars, go. Immediately they'll give you 2, and then they'll struggle to find the rest. It's really interesting. But it's the same way with anything. And so you've got to stay relevant. And the only way to do that is to assault people with ads.
Yeah. Yeah. So having somebody that can put it on blast for you has been beneficial for me.
Yeah.
You know, your mileage may vary, but I would start there, with talk to people that have done this before and
Sure.
ask for referrals and who do they recommend. And not all brokers are created equal, just like not all real estate agents are created equal.
Restaurants, everything.
Do your due diligence on them. What are they going to do for you? They're working for you. And so, get a broker and go through the process.
Yeah.
And they'll help you. You know, this is what you need to prepare for. This is your timelines. We need to have this ready to go.
Yeah.
It's important.
Now, you mentioned that you're processing a lot of this, obviously, now with me, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure Holly is processing all of this with you, too. Our spouses are better halves, better
Sure.
2/3.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're processing with your coach as well.
Yep.
Do you feel like you have, regardless of being overwhelmed, do you feel supported? Do you feel like you have a network of people around you to feel like, all right, I this is hard, this is challenging, but I feel like I'm being held up, right?
Yeah.
You feel like you have people on your sides. You feel like you have people in front of you, behind you, helping you out.
Yes, I do.
That feels good, man. That's pretty cool. That's a gift.
It still feels lonely.
Yeah. So it's your own journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I don't have any doubt that I'm surrounded by good people that love me and want the best for me.
Sure.
That is 100% yes, and it's a huge blessing.
Sure.
And even in that, I feel like I'm by myself
Yeah.
because
Devin
all
would probably
of those people
Yeah.
cannot step in and
Yeah. I get that.
navigate the emails or the numbers, or we need a new financial report, or
Right.
we got to break this financial report down. This one doesn't make sense. Like, why did this, and so you're kind of on a solo mission to some
Yeah.
extent. And I do have an executive assistant that works directly for me and not for my companies. And so she helps me with a lot of that stuff. And so that's supportive and that's
Yeah,
helpful. But
Decision making, things like that.
I
It's
still
on you.
carry it.
Yeah,
I
it's
still
on you.
carry the weight of making sure that this sucker gets across the finish line. As much of a support as you are, and you're hugely positive in my life, and I thank you for that. You always have a great attitude, and you're always my biggest cheerleader, or one of them. I love that. You still can't help me get it across the line.
Sure.
And so it's still heavy. It's still heavy.
Are you really looking forward to your mastermind? That's got to be
Yeah.
that's got to be really fun looking forward to, because I would say I haven't experienced any of this, so I can again cheerlead you and help just root you on and keep you optimistic. But having those guys, they have exited companies, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And so just again, we talked about it I think a couple nights ago. Just having someone tell you, I know what you're going through. I understand what you're feeling. There's healing in that. There's
Yeah.
immediately healing in that of going, oh, yeah, I'm alone in my own journey, but I'm not alone in these feelings. Like, I'm not the only one that has gone through this process emotionally. And that feels healing to me. That's the only word I can think of.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's probably an episode in there of creating your own mastermind. We haven't really talked about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, we should.
We should probably do that. What does that word even mean? Where did it come up
Right.
from? And let's not dive into that now, because that will kind of get us off track. But yeah, it's a group of people that I meet with 3 times a year, and so yeah, that'll be helpful. We meet next week, so
Yeah.
that'll be good.
It'd be good to bounce some questions off them too, maybe some anomalies or things that have come up that they might have a different perspective or angle. And I know that's the point of it, but man, I'm looking forward to that for you.
Yeah, it'll be a nice almost retreat ish.
Yes.
And so that'll be good. So yeah, this season's amazing. The fact that I've created another business that somebody wants to buy is humbling.
Yes, it is.
And
Super cool.
And it feels really, really good. But it's dragging.
Yeah.
I'm ready to be done.
Yeah. Fatigue is real.
Mm-hmm.
It just is, in
Yeah.
different lanes. And so I applaud you for it.
Yeah.
I respect you more than you'll ever know.
Yeah. Thank you.
And it's pretty fun to watch your career unfold in front of my eyes, because you've always been an inspiration to me. You've always helped motivate me to be better at what I do. And so
Thanks, man.
it's going to be fun to see you take these next steps so that I can take these next steps.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so just kind of tying. Thank you for that. That was really kind.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But yeah, it's the only reason someone wanted to buy this, to kind of tie it back to the topic of this whole thing, is because I started from the beginning going, this was a business, and this one I actually was building to sell. I didn't see a long-term trajectory for me.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
That's totally acceptable. The process of doing that's the same though.
Yeah.
Whether you're building it to sell or you're building it to remove yourself out of it, which is building it to sell.
Right.
Making sure that the business doesn't need you, making sure that your systems and processes are fully documented, so that when there's employee turnover on a transaction, on a transition, which there is always, every time, whether they remove the employees or whether the employees remove themselves because of a leadership change, there's going to be shift.
Right.
And so that gives the buyer confidence that they can replace that employee effectively.
Right.
They can step in, they can teach the job, even if they don't know how the job would work optimally. There's still a framework of like, here's the big pieces that we need to be paying attention to.
Right.
Making sure that your product, your service is very productized, that it's not custom, that it's not one-off, that it doesn't need, input on every single element, that it's easily duplicatable, that your acquisition process of how you get new customers, new clients is clearly defined and well working. Your conversion process is clean and well documented. Like every piece of it helps you remove yourself from it, which in turn helps a buyer go, I can see how I can step in.
And I'm going to share something that I think a lot of people don't even know, is that when you sold Degree 33, you took a year off.
I did.
And I think that was majorly impactful in how you designed this company that you're speaking about, because I watched in real time. I watched it all unfold just through conversation that, man, this guy is really taking all of his learnings from Degree 33, took all of those things that he didn't enjoy and decided, I'm going to build a business that is designed to serve my lifestyle, not the other way around.
Yeah.
My lifestyle is not here to serve my business, which when you chase opportunity for the sake of opportunity, that can just simply happen, and allow it to happen, because you're learning, you're figuring out business as you go, and you're not going to know what you don't like to do until you do it. And so you taking a year off was really fun to watch and really impactful for me, because it allowed me to watch you slow down and really methodically think about and plan out what made sense for your life.
Yeah.
Not just chasing opportunity for the sake of opportunity any longer, right?
Yeah.
Creating the opportunity for yourself and your family. Man, there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in that.
Let's throw back to our last episode on life design.
Yeah.
Because
you did it.
It was intentional when we exited that business and then simultaneously relocated. That was kind of, a part of that.
Yeah.
But as we started the next project, it was like, this is what I'm creating. This is why I'm creating it, because I want these benefits. And it was very intentional in designing the way I could live day to day and how I spend time with my family and interact with my community and nature and everything else. And I'm sure there's going to be the next iteration of that.
Of course.
Right? I'm going to take learnings from this exit and I'll apply it to my other businesses that are currently in motion, and the next one that I create, and it will be a part of a never-ending evolution of my business career.
And the truth is, I truly believe we're supposed to change. It's not just a matter of we change, it happens. We are supposed to change.
Yeah.
You are meant to grow and to learn and to experience, and all of that is going to add up to you changing over time.
Yeah.
For the betterment of yourself and for the betterment of society. Allow it to happen. It's supposed to happen.
And that comes with maturity. I mean, remember high school in the yearbook? Never change, always be the same, right?
I was such a D. I used to I'm sorry to all you guys, but I literally wrote hags on everyone's book. Have a great summer.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I think people really expected a nice thought, but that was about all I was willing to give. And
wow. That probably shows a little bit about where you were at mentally.
Where I was at
point,
in that, yeah,
emotionally.
for sure. And
because that
genuinely, I hope they did have a great summer. But to all you out there, I was a D. I truly love you, and I'm sorry.
Yeah. So funny. But yes, change is part of this. And you've mentioned it before, growth is a major, it's a major pillar in my life. I need to be moving forward measurably. Now, that doesn't necessarily just mean socioeconomically. Sure. I want a career that pays more than the last, as we all do.
Yeah.
But that's me personally developing, me growing, my fitness getting better, my spirituality getting better. Like, I feel the most fulfilled when I can see ground is being taken. That's where I need to live. And yes, we all need to be changing and evolving.
Don't get too ripped though, because that means you're not a good dad. And my buddy Dustin Nickerson, will give him a plug. He said, I don't think buff guys can be good dads. It's just a time management issue. You can't do both well. You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's like he said, what did he say? When I see a ripped guy, I just see a body that's not hugging his kids.
So funny.
It is super funny. But I really, for a lot of people, you hit a certain age, and I see people start to check out a little bit and give up a little bit and coast. And I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just feels counterintuitive to our design. Maybe I'm wrong, but it does. And it's really fun to watch you go, I don't care about any of those boundaries or limits or anything else. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep efforting toward better and limitless lifestyle. And I love it, man. It's fun to be a part of.
Even as you say that, what's interesting about that though is that the pull is to coast. However, the intellect of it, I can go, but I don't. Yeah, the coasting feels good, but not as good as growth.
Do you feel like maybe just with age you start to get less intense, and maybe that's where that comes from? Is like I'm losing intensity a little bit?
Possibly. I'm almost 43.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sure that there's an element of that. I think it's maturity. I think it's seeing enough, experiencing enough to know that, intensity only takes you so far and is only so helpful. And, I think it's perspective. I think it's many things. But, as you were saying that, I was like, but I would like to coast. And it has a pull to it. And yet I know that in those moments where I have, it's not as rewarding and replenishing as one would hope.
Client and friend of mine, Nick, sold his company about 5 or 6 years ago for a decent amount of money. And I went and had lunch with him, and I was like, what are you up to these days? He goes, I'm getting into architecture. I was like, architecture? I was like, you retired. You sold your company. You're done. And he's, I think, in his mid 40s, late 40s. And he goes, dude, I really underestimated how bored I was going to get. And it took less than 6 months for me to go, I'm not okay with this, right? Like, regardless of selling my business and being financially capable, I need to do something. My brain is wired to produce and create, and I just need to keep doing that. So I just watched a guy live that dream out and go, no. And now he's doing something completely different that he never did before. And it's really just to challenge the brain. And I think that's just part of development and evolution and everything else. So it's funny, man. I think coasting is such a fleeting feeling and thought, because I feel the same way sometimes. God, it'd be so nice for life just to be boring for a minute.
Yeah.
But then it's boring for 2 days and I'm literally tearing my arm off and hitting myself in the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So regardless of me wanting it, I don't know if I'm wired for it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're not there yet anyways. So it's kind of a pipe dream, even if that was what we were wanting to do.
But we're processing purpose. That's the point.
That's right.
Love it.
And this is what's going on right now.
Yep. Love it.
58 minutes.
Cool. We locked it in. Well, again, hope there were some nuggets there for you guys to take away. I felt like there were some good things talked about and shared today. But yeah, give us your feedback. Give us your thoughts. We want to talk about more things that are relevant and helpful.
Yeah.
So, all
Thanks,
right,
man.
Love you, dude.
Love you.
Thank you for tuning in to Processing Purpose. We hope you grabbed a few gold nuggets to take one step forward in your journey of life and business. Please remember to like and subscribe our channel if you'd like to get more content to help you build and grow everything around you. Make today your best day. Today is day one.